You know what's one thing we never say about the Steelers? We never say, "Wow, this is nothing's going on. This is really boring." What are we going to talk about? There's always drama. It's always crazy in Pittsburgh. That's basically what the Steelers are.
We also never say, boy, we ran the score up on them.
I can't remember the last time we did that. I mean, last night or Sunday night, excuse me, was horrible. I think we were lucky to get out of there with a 3 point loss. Uh, I don't see there's really much to take good out of it. And now they're sitting at 3-2. And yeah, I mean, they got punched in the mouth and it's never recovered.
The
Kind of like the
last
Colts
time
the way the Colts started.
the last time we felt comfortable about like an easy victory was back in the Ben AB Le'Veon Bell days when Ben would throw for 5 touchdowns and
Yeah.
we just had it easy.
Even
Even when
then, you're
we
like so
win,
conditioned to being nervous. You were still nervous through the whole game. You're like, I know we're up by 35, but whew,
you
it could
never
come
know.
back on us. That's happened before.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, even when we win, it's a nail biter. We're not totally happy. We're just like it's basically just like a phew. But this one we're not saying few, we're saying WTF because this is just I don't know. I don't know. I was hopeful about this team. Now I'm very not hopeful. What's that song? Everything is awesome. Everything sucks. Everything.
Yeah, I think our worst fears are really, or at least mine, are coming to fruition. They have the worst wide receiving core in the league. I told you guys when we did our picks that I don't think Pickett has what it takes to be maybe number one, at least not mentally. And he proved it again last night with that ridiculous thing at the end. I mean, if we had maybe some other receivers, I would have benched his ass. But I mean, he's not. Tomlin ended up defending him, which I have no idea why. Um,
I think
Full
he was
sport.
benching him. I mean, I think that's what that ridiculous load management BS is, where you only played him half the number of snaps he normally plays. I think that was some sort of
Maybe you're
bizarre
right.
modified benching.
Maybe you're right. I think the defense is what got me, though. I mean, it was bad. That it was a horrible. We have an elite defense, and they didn't even show up last night. They get 3 turnovers, and our offense couldn't do anything with them. But they let the Cowboys double up our yards. They averaged almost 6 yards per play. They let the Cowboys convert 9 third down plays, a lot of which was on that last drive. And for me, I know it sounds a little harsh. They were on the field and the game mattered the most at the end, and they couldn't do it. All they needed to do was stop Dallas in that final drive at some point. I don't mean a turnover, but get him to punt the ball, get him to turn it over on downs. Couldn't do
The
it.
strength of this team is the defense. The Steelers were up 17-13 with less than 5 minutes left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
All you had to do was stop them, which is the defense's job, and they just let them go right down the field and let them score the touchdown. I'm not saying it's on the defense because I mean the defense made it close because with all those interceptions and the fumbles and blocked stuff. So they prevented several touchdowns, but still the offense put them in a position to win and they just flat out failed.
But by that same token, maybe I get looking at it that way, but I also had like shades of Kenny Pickett, Matt Canada flashbacks for how much time the defense spent on the field in this game. And we watched them wear down, and you could see them wearing down. And then they get to that last drive. And I recognize, they had to just stop them on this one drive. But I felt like they had been on the field so much, particularly that second half. It was just like it was under Matt Canada. You're 3 and out, you're 3 and out.
Hmm.
The offense isn't sustaining anything. So I felt like we were in the position we were in because of the defense. And sure, there's room for improvement. I'm not letting them off the hook scot-free, but I don't put all the blame on the defense. I still put way more on the offense and the bizarre coaching that was happening with the weird timeouts and
Yeah,
yeah, I mean
yeah.
that's that
The,
some of the
the
play calls, like the 3rd and 8, and you're going to run this guy that was
to a substitute
out
teacher.
at Harvard last week. I mean, like,
Yeah,
what are we doing?
yeah.
Well, and Mike Tomlin, I mean, I could not understand the 12 men on the field. Take the penalty, take the 5 yards, and keep a timeout. I mean,
Right.
that was ridiculous I mean,
You've been
horrible.
coaching for 18 years. Like,
Yeah,
I've never coached a single down of NFL football, and I'm on my couch screaming, take the penalty.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's
I didn't get
in-game
asked
management by Tomlin has always been a weak point.
Yes.
Um,
in 18 years.
yeah. Oh, yeah. For, yeah, not just this year, all the
Yeah.
years.
Always.
The defense um created a bunch of turnovers. And every time there was a turnover, interceptions, causing fumbles, blocked field goals, whenever the offense would come out there, they did nothing.
Nothing.
That
Yeah.
is, yeah. The offense is not without blame here.
No.
Basically everything sucks.
Other
Yeah.
than
I mean,
special
I
teams,
just feel
big
like
pat on the back for special teams. They had a great game.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and that's not enough to win the NFL. Unfortunately, a lot of times it might be what puts you over if ever all the rest of the team bounces out and plays well, but nobody played well. Defense, the offense. I mean, don't even get me started. Like I tweeted about that, Joe. You know, you can't Fields and Najee Harris weren't giving us anything. Najee Harris, 14 carries, 42 yards, nothing, nothing. I mean, he is just flat out been a zero. I mean, and the backups were horrible. Uh, Fields, 2 touchdowns, yeah, but the first half he was deplorable, 4 for 9 for like 43 yards. Second half, as he's done recently, picked it up a little bit better, was getting into a better rhythm. But and I think at one point there was 3 times I do know Najee was wide open. I went back and watched. There was twice in the fourth quarter, once in the third. He beat his guy clearly. I mean, it was Tutty City, and he doesn't read through his progressions. To me, he just kind of checks down and then runs. I don't know. You hear now a lot of the Russell Wilson talk, guys, and I'm actually absolutely open to seeing Russell Wilson play.
I put some blame
Yeah.
on Broderick Jones too. I thought that, Isaac Seumalo didn't have a great game and coming back. And so I wondered, was he still like not feeling great? Do you know what I mean? But I don't know what the hell is going on with Broderick Jones. If you look, and I don't put a ton of weight in PFF's grades, but look, it is like a benchmark for something to utilize. So if you look at him, his pass pro and his run blocking were 48.7, and particularly, and that was in the second half. I mean, so we're trying to mount this comeback, and he's out there shooting him in the foot, both in the pass and in the run. And I mean, you could just see him getting picked apart. He looked defeated. He got worse as the game went on. I don't know if I almost hope that his confidence was hurt by all this bizarre moving around that they did with him flipping back and forth and all over the place, because I feel like at least you can rebuild his confidence, because otherwise I don't know what's going on with Broderick Jones and why he looks like not like a first round draft pick, not as good as what we saw last year.
He looks terrible. The offensive line in general looks terrible. Yes, Sayamalo came back, but I remember TJ Watt had a pec injury a year or two ago. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he came back, but he was not nearly the
Not
same.
TJ Watt.
Yeah. He
Right.
would, yeah. So say, yeah, you're back, but I mean, Sam All looked terrible last night. The entire offensive line looked terrible. And yeah, I'm officially tired of Najee Harris. Dude, yeah, I heard someone say, well, if he has proper blocking, he'll do well. No, that's every running back.
Yeah.
He's nothing special. All these teams, every team is dealing with injuries, and Miami's season is basically sunk because they lost Tua, and everybody's dealing with injuries. And the Steelers' injuries are somewhat minor, but losing Jalen Warren, losing Cordell Patterson, I think is devastating. Also, on the defensive side, losing Alex Highsmith, devastating. Nick Herbig did a pretty good job, but Alex Highsmith, he excels in the run defense, and they were
Nobody steals the edge like Alex does. I mean, not
yeah.
TJ, not anybody. Nobody does. And yeah, to not have him is a huge blow. I hope sounds like he's improving, so hopefully he's back soon.
Yeah, because Dallas is not a good running team. They're one of the worst teams, and they racked up 109 yards on us last night. And, I mean, we couldn't stop the run.
We couldn't stop the run, and we couldn't run on them, and they have a horrible run defense.
Right.
I'm so tired of whenever you do a preview of the next game, it's like, well, this team is 32nd against the run or something like that. That means we should be able to run. No,
It
we
means
can't
we're
take
going to play
advantage of
down to
anything.
him and lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then we'll play some team that has like the number 2 run defense, and we should lose to them, and we'll run. Najee Harris will trot up and down the field on them for some
Right.
reason. I don't understand it. It does. I used to like make fun of people who always said that we played down to teams, but it really does feel like we do. And I mean, I'm concerned. What is this going to be like the 7th year in a row that we dropped 3 games in a row that we shouldn't lose if we lose to the Raiders?
Uh-huh.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, because I'm not very confident right now going into Las Vegas. I mean, they should win that game, but it's just a tired old
We
song,
struggle with the
and
Raiders anyhow.
we do. Yeah, and it's just I don't know. I don't know where they're going to fix this right now. I just don't know what the fix is in a week to remedy some of these things that are just, I think the only purpose, that's why I'm suggesting, maybe it's time to go to Russell Wilson. Give some kind of fresh perspective. Give this offense some kind of chance because Fields isn't getting it done really. Like you said, Joe, 3 turnovers. They couldn't move the ball. Harris couldn't move the ball. I just don't know. And I can tell you, like I said, the receiving core, I think, is worse than what we thought.
I
Van
think
Jefferson dropped the ball. Pickens dropped the ball. I mean, like, it's just, wow. If it
let's
wasn't for those 3 picks, it probably could have been 20 or 35-17.
Oh yeah, totally. Totally. Let's start with the quarterbacks. I saw something that someone said Fields has reached his ceiling. If that's the case, oh my God, I really feel bad for the kid because that is not, if that's the best you could
I
do,
don't think so.
oh God, God help us all. I it I'm 50-50 on whether who's going to be the quarterback against the Raiders. I don't know. I think it all depends on Wednesday's practice. If Russell Wilson can get through the practice and look okay, I think he's going to start because I think Tomlin saw that this game and there were throws out there. And like you said, Darren, there were open receivers and he just missed them. That throw to Connor Hayward, where Hayward like had to dive and stuff. If he makes a good throw, that's a touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, again, I am with LeeAnn. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like it's all in the defense, but we want to talk about some other no-shows. I mean, where has Patrick Queen been? I mean, we
Thank
brought him
you.
in. He thought he was supposed to help make the run defense almost impossible to run against. He was absolutely invisible. Cam Hayward was okay last night, but and we were having Moon out there as our outside linebacker at one point. I mean, they are.
Well,
I
they're
don't know.
banks.
And
I just don't
he
know.
will be the starting outside linebacker
Minka
this week.
Yes, he
Minka
will.
has not had a pick at all.
I
I'm
think
not
Minka
trying to
is
be.
still playing way out of position. Like I still think we were supposed to be getting back to Minka ball. I don't see that we're back to Minka ball at all.
No.
I heard an interesting comment about Patrick Queen. I did an article on it last week and I thought this was really interesting and it's kind of stuck in my head. And so this game I really watched him and I don't know what I'm watching for, but I watched to see if he looked tired because Arthur Motes, who was a linebacker for the Steelers, talked about Queen and how everybody is like jumping off the Queen bandwagon and he's so terrible and he's a bust and we wasted all this money. And Moat said, people don't understand that playing a linebacker in the NFL, when you go to a new team, there's this period where you have to transition. And he said, but it's like fatigue. He said, there's nothing that you do in practice, in life, in the off season that replicates what happens when you're out there from being a guy who plays in some packages in Baltimore to be a guy that's featured on every snap in the defense now, that kind of change for him is going to take time for him to adjust. And he was convinced that we will see Queen get there soon. And then once he adjusts, then he'll stay adjusted. You know what I mean? Because it's different than what he did in Baltimore, splitting it with Roquan Smith.
It's a whole new team, a whole new system, and he doesn't have to just he doesn't have to just do something mindless. He doesn't just say, see the ball, run to the ball. He is basically the brains of the defense.
Yeah.
He has the green dot. He has to set the formations and stuff. He has a lot going on, and I think most of that,
Yeah.
the reason why he's a step behind is because it's mental, because he's trying to get this all caught up and trying to learn all this stuff. So yeah, I think eventually he's going to be okay. But
too.
now
It's a little
he's
bit of a
just not there.
liability.
I think to LeeAnn's point, maybe it is, I do still feel he's been a little bit more invisible than I would like. All due respect to Arthur Motes.
Yeah.
But, is Terrell Austin even putting him in the right position to succeed? Because on that last play, when it was 4th and goal, we didn't blitz. You can't let Dak Prescott sit there. And if you watch that play, and I
He
watched
had
like
all
5
day.
Dak went like this.
Yeah.
And then back. He checked his progressions 3 times.
You got to
can't-
question that bend don't break defense at some
Right.
point. Like when you see it break and then you see it break again, like at what point do you not come up with something different? You know what I mean? I hate that.
Exactly.
And it frustrates me with Terrell Austin. I don't understand it. I said this to somebody else that when you can come out with a game plan, and then when your game plan's not working, you have to make adjustments. It's what every NFL team who's losing does every week. And it feels like the Steelers never do that. It feels like, well, this is what we predetermined, and so we have to just keep sticking this round peg into a square hole.
Imagine this team with Brian Flores as a defensive coordinator, because that dude is single-handedly making Minnesota undefeated.
Genius. He's a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Vikings are doing really well, and it's the only thing on my fantasy team that's even working right now. But the rest of my, if you tune into Grey's Anatomy this Thursday, most of my team will appear on its guest episode.
Everybody's hurt.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it really is. I think, and that's the problem here. I mean, it's okay. Queen could be more visible. Najee could be running better. Fields Fields hit his ceiling. And then the coaching is not firing. I'm not ready to give up on Arthur Smith yet. For God's sakes, you guys only had 5 games. But to LeeAnn's point at the very beginning, it's like Matt Canada again a little bit. I'm starting to worry. I am worried a little bit because it's like, it's a different kind of suck. We just are not.
Well, the suck, we had hope. We had hope, and then it sucked.
And I think a lot of us bought into, and I'm still kind of there, and I don't know whether to tell if it's a scheme or Najee's just not hitting the holes. And I kind of thought I think all of us thought Najee should probably have a decent year because he's at least hit 1,000 yards the last couple of years with not great offensive lines.
Yeah,
offensive line should have been better. Najee should easily probably hit 1,000 and maybe even have 7 touchdowns along the way. Here's a concern. We're in game 5, guys, and between our top receiver and top running back, we have 0 touchdowns in 5 games.
Najee's not hitting the holes, and we know who was hitting the holes? Jaylen Warren and Cordarrelle Patterson.
But you have to question the usage a little bit. Like Najee had the most receiving yards for the Steelers. Like, how is that a thing?
He looked good at receiving. Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys. I kept waiting for him to get a flag last night because he was chipping and.
But then by the same token, you look at our defense and our safeties have the most tackles. So it just feels like we're in the upside down world or something on Stranger Things.
Bizarro Jerry. It's
when Minka is your leading tackler or close to it, that's a bad sign. That's bad.
He is a leading tackler, and Deshaun Elliott is right behind him. Like that's
bad. That means the backs are getting way ahead of where they're supposed to. Oh man.
Yeah.
All
it's and that's why I always say I still stand by this. Other than I think Larry Foote may have been one of the best acquisitions in team history because he was a guy that had those tackles. Nothing much got by him. And you're right, LeeAnn, like a lot of these guys, and to your point too, Joe, the backs are getting down the field. Now you're relying on Deshaun and Mika and Jay Peasy Jr. to make these plays. And it's just
he's been a non-factor this season too.
Yeah, he hasn't been great, but who's really been bad?
I expect him to have this like huge breakout year 2.
Yeah, who's really been bad? Beanie Bishop.
Oof.
That was
during the game that that old auntie that like used to grab you by the ear as a little kid and like get you up and rip you into shape. Like that's what I want to go do to Beanie Bishop because oh my God, what are you doing?
You come here, young man.
Listen to me right now.
Yeah. I mean, I still thought. I mean, Joey Porter Jr. got the CD Lamb assignment. He still did pretty well
Yeah,
last night. But that's the thing. It
just
seems
that
like
interception.
and to you,
He's just
but you
not
know
having
what,
a
Leanne?
season.
And maybe it's that they're relying so much on the DBs right now that they're just burnt out. I mean, we're relying on Beanie Bishops and the Joey Porter Juniors of the world to make these plays and make these tackles because our defensive line linebackers are either A, you can't make it, or like you said earlier,
Yeah.
B, they're so burnt out because by the time you get to the fourth quarter, they've been on the field so damn long.
Exactly.
It's just, and it's like a repeat of last year, and we kind of all thought, at least I did it, we were past that.
Yeah.
Why was
You
the
know?
defense so good against Atlanta and Denver? Because they were on their less. Because the
Yes.
offense was making sustained
Yes.
drives and keeping the defense off the field, and so the defense was more fresh and they were more effective.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And look, as far as Beanie Bishop goes, like I feel bad like beating up on the kid. You know what I mean? He's an undrafted rookie. But Mike Tomlin is the first one to say that, like, next man up and all this mentality. And so, if you're out there playing, you've got to be able to do the job. And if he couldn't do the job, then that was on the coaches to get somebody who could and not somebody who was suspended for 8 weeks for assaulting his wife.
It's not that it's not Beanie Bishop's fault. It is the team's fault for thinking that the slot corner is just a useless position
Right.
and we'll just throw anyone
Right.
out there. Because if
Anybody
it
can do
wasn't
that.
Beanie Bishop, it was some other, like it was like two or three other scrubs.
Well,
You know,
Tomlin even joked about it during the preseason, and I'm like, oh, he's joking because they're going to get somebody else. And then,
No,
oh,
no. And uh, yeah, no, and everything else too. The time of possession, right? Dallas had the ball 6 more minutes longer than we did. They had 80 plays nearly. And it's weird because some of the stats you look at it, Steelers were 100% in the red zone. They were 2 for 2.
yeah,
Cowboys only 1 for 4, and we somehow lose that game. And it's like, I mean, to me, okay, our defense did a hell of a lot better job in the red zone than Natives did, and yet here we are talking about a 3-point loss. And I just
Mike
yeah.
McCarthy said that Tomlin basically gave him a gift with that timeout that he called on their fourth
Yeah.
down at the end of the game. He called that stupid timeout, and Mike McCarthy said he was able to look at the defense. He didn't like what he see. He's like, we got a different play. He adjusted the play call, adjusted his personnel, and they picked it up.
the whole
So, I
reason
mean, I'm
that
not, look,
Tomlin
you can play
called
the
that,
what if. You can play
yeah,
the what if game forever, but come on, man.
the whole reason Tomlin called the timeout was to see what their formation
Because
was.
he didn't
And
like it.
then it
Like,
went,
come on. What the hell?
I mean, you gotta credit Dak Prescott there. And
Breaking the primetime curse and all that.
um but the whole, I heard the reason you don't blitz there is because Dak Prescott is so good against the blitz.
Oh my God.
Here's a crazy idea. You haven't been blitzing him all day. Throw him something he hasn't seen. Throw something unexpected. Don't
Yeah,
give him all day. If
That's
you listen to
exactly
the
right.
radio replay of that, it's like Dak Prescott looking right, looking left. Now he's looking right. Now he's looking left. Now he's
He's
pulling
like a
out a
little
ham
kid
sandwich.
crossing the street.
Like, yeah, just I don't know. I don't know. It's just so frustrating.
And
Speaking,
it's the fact that we didn't lose 35-17. It's once again a game that was winnable, and we just didn't do the things we needed to do to win it. And same with the Colts. I mean, you just can't get down to 17 points. We did a game Friday night, and the coach that got interviewed afterwards, and I still feel there's some good places, some good parallels you can draw from high school to college to the NFL. And he said something is, we knew in this game we had to get out there and get up early. And I can't remember the last time the Steelers, were up 14-0 after a quarter or after first quarter, or we go in the locker room with a 17-3 lead or 21-7 lead or something like that. I'm not asking the defense to pitch a shutout, maybe
or
21
score a
10.
touchdown in the first quarter, even.
Right. And it always seems for just ever now, we are digging ourselves a hole, or we're just kind of marching along in parallel 3-3, 6-3, 6-6. And we just never get out the gate and get marched down the field. And because if you look at that Colts game, Joe, and I said this too, and LeeAnn, I don't know if you saw it, the first play was like a 40-yard bomb down the sideline. It was a punch in the mouth, and then they went down there and they went in a hurry-up offense, and we had no idea what to do. It was 7-0 before it hit us.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, to me, that's like we never were able to seem to do that.
Yeah.
Just at least
Ever.
not since Ben's gone.
No, because we're doing this like weird conservative thing, and the weird conservative thing isn't working. And so I bought into it at first. I bought into it hook, line, and sinker through those first 3 games when we won.
Mhm.
That, like, oh, they've got the leash on Justin Fields, and they just want to let it out slowly because, you know, he has had turnover issues, and oh, he's doing a good job. But then all of a sudden, at some point, you have to say, this isn't working in this game. And so we got to trust this guy. Like, we're letting this kid play professional football for us. We have to put our faith in him and trust him. And if you can't do that, then he shouldn't be playing. Do you know what I mean? If you really believe you can't trust him, then he shouldn't be playing. Put Kyle
It's
Allen in.
it's been the philosophy since Ben retired, even Ben's last year, this ultra conservative, let the defense win, we'll win it 17-13, blah blah blah. Fine, but that's not that you're just making the offense ultra conservative. You know, that 3rd and 8 where they were already in field goal range. Why did they do that? Oh, I don't know. Because against the Colts, they were in field goal range, and Justin Fields decides to saunter 30 yards backwards and fumble
Right.
the ball. If they don't trust him, then just
Right.
put Russell Wilson in there right now. If you don't trust them, and who knows, they'll probably do the same crap with Russell Wilson.
You have to learn from your mistakes. We ran this ultra conservative offense with Kenny Pickett. We ran it with Mitch Trubisky, and we weren't performing well. And the reason is because the defense cannot stay out there for 47
Yeah,
minutes or whatever. So you have to be able to sustain drives. The only way your defense wins, this isn't 1984. The only way your defense wins is if your offense gives them time to recover. And I
yeah.
said, you know, I don't know if they're thinking every game is going to be like week 2 last season, where the defense scored 2 defensive touchdowns for us and we were able to beat the Browns, but that is not going to ever be the norm.
Right. It's like caveman stuff. Like at one point, if you take it back, 5,000 years, and Darren and LeeAnn and Joe doing their rock cast, at some point LeeAnn or Joe figured out, hey, fire. Ooh, wait, we can do this, we can do that. And it's like you look at the in 1984, I love it because in 1984, both the Dolphins and the 49ers started figuring out, damn, we could throw the ball a lot more.
Yeah.
And you had the birth of Joe Montana, because in 81, the 49ers were pretty good, but Roger Craig was like a big part of that, right? And all of a sudden, they just started letting guys like Joe Montana, Dan Marino, Elway, Kelly, all these guys started slinging it, and boom, here we are, where the running back is now, one of the lower paid positions in the across the league. It's no longer, an Earl Campbell, Franco Harris, Christian Okoye, whatever you want to look at. Okoye might be a bad example, but yeah. And so again, yeah, like we're still stuck back in like it's 3 guards in a cloud of dust, and it's just not anymore. And like you said, okay, you can have an elite defense with that, but that elite defense cannot be out there for 32 minutes and 29 seconds.
Right.
With the Steelers, it's 1.5 yards in a cloud of dust. They
Right.
can't
Yeah,
even they can't even run. And that's the problem. And that's this offensive line, we know there's tons of injuries. I, there are more combinations of this offensive line so far this year. Every game is a different combination of the offensive line. And it's just bad. It's just I don't know. You just hope they get better, but that offensive line is just awful right now.
I got to say, the one thing that I really, really keep going back to with this switch to Russell Wilson is I'm not confident in what he brings to the table that Justin Fields doesn't bring to the table. Do you know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know.
I think Fields is younger, he's healthier. I think he's more athletic. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, yes, all right, Russell has won a Super Bowl and he's got all this poise and whatever. But if he's got no one to throw the ball to, what difference does it make? And just because we put Russell
yeah, but
doesn't mean we magically have wide receivers or running backs that can hit the hole. Do you know what I mean? None of those things change. And if we're still going to play this conservative offense with Russell Wilson, which I think we will, then
Probably.
I think it's going to not look all that different. And then what do? Let's say you play Russell Wilson this week. Let's say he gets hurt again, and which seems really likely to me because I heard that this injury's been nagging. This isn't new. So then what happens? Then now you've dinged Fields' confidence. You pulled like a Washington Commanders on him and put him on the bench. And how's he going to come? You know what I mean? And then you're going to want him to come back in and play for you after you already said he wasn't good enough. I think it's why Tomlin avoided naming him the starter to begin with. And I think he's done a good job playing both sides of it. But now at some point, you have to just say, we're riding with Fields for the rest of the season. Or
Kyle Allen, baby.
Stop, we promised him.
Kyle Allen, 1 for 1, 19 yards, quarterback rating, 118.8.
What a great pass that was. You had to do one thing as a quarterback, and you came in for one play, one thing, right? Like, come on, man. That was awesome.
The poor guy had to stand in the rain for all those hours, so he got his one moment of glory.
Yes.
The only thing I'd say to Russell Wilson is, just looking at it from even a coaching perspective, is I just like the way I think he would have checked his progressions a couple times last night. Everything you say, LeeAnn, I'm pretty much on board with. I just feel like, no, he's not going to come in and throw 4 touchdowns, but I think he would have been able to get them a little bit in a better position to win. Because you think last year he still had 25 touchdowns, only 6 picks. And Cortland Sutton was banged up. He didn't have a great receiving core last year. You're right. He's not going to come in and throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. But and this is what the Steelers needed the last couple weeks, if he can come down and get you an extra touchdown because of his prowess and his calmness in the pocket, like you said, Joe, you have balls going over your head, you fumble the snap, you're 30 yards back on a field goal on 3rd and 8. I don't think Russell Wilson's going to do that on a 3rd and 8. But LeeAnn, I'm with LeeAnn's philosophy the whole way. But at this point, I just don't know. And that might play out that way. But
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Wilson, but I'll be shocked if we see him this week. I think he's going to want to give Fields one more week. Do you know what I mean?
It's been
there was a weird, I forget the word Mike Tomlin used when he talked about Wilson today at the press conference. He said, we'll see when he gets out there Wednesday. He said, like, if he can tolerate it, or if he can
pull it off.
Pull
it off is the word he used.
There you go. That's it. If he can pull it off, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds a lot like fake it till you make it.
Real interesting choice of words there. Pull it off.
And Tomlin, I believe he's very purposeful in what he says. So he said, pull it off. That means something.
Oh, I guess so. On that.
I mean, we don't know what toppings he puts on his hot dog, but we know what toppings Joe puts on his. So I don't see
ketchup only. You know what? If the most hate I've gone online is because I said, "Hey, I like ketchup on my hot dogs," and
it's like putting a
just want to kill me.
Kamala Harris sign in your front yard. You stand out there with this, "I put ketchup on my hot dog, prove me wrong" kind of a thing. I mean, it's you should put a political sign in your yard: ketchup only on hot dog.
Ketchup on my hot dog, 2024. That would. I would much rather vote for a hot dog with ketchup than what we got going on there.
So I don't know, and that's what's tough about this team, because it's like LeeAnn's made some good points, Joe's made some good points. It's like,
yeah, so have you.
Well, thank you, but I mean, it's like all of that should be fairly easy to patch up or fix along the line, and. So to me, if you're really looking to point the finger at anybody, the coaching staff is just, to me, not come through for this team for years now. You can go from Mike Tomlin, you can go to the OC. Terrell Austin, he's from Sharon, PA, and I like Terrell. And so I got a little bit of a homer thing going on for him.
Yeah, I like him too.
I've seen him play at Sharon High School, and but it's just like, damn. I mean, nothing's clicking. And I still go back, guys. I really feel this would be a much different team if they go into Las Vegas this weekend and we're up. I'll just say this: if we're up 17-7 at halftime, I bet you we win that game. But we just never seem to be. Give us a 10-point or 14-point lead. I think we're going to be pretty good.
I was like, ooh, that's a big lead, Darren.
I was going to say the amount of times we've got a 2-score lead in the last 3 years, I think I could count on one hand.
Right. And I'm not even like, okay, 14-3. And that's not even that big, but I mean, that's just the thing. Cause like I said, they were 2 for 2 in the red zone last night against, and really, guys, I mean, if you really want to get into the drama of it, Dallas was missing most of their best defensive players. I
They
mean,
were
we
really
really,
banged up.
we really should have been able to move the ball
Can you
better because
imagine
when
if
we did get
Micah
in the red zone,
Parsons
it
had been
worked.
playing?
What's that?
Can you imagine if Micah Parsons had been playing? I mean,
It would
He
have
would
been
have
bad.
destroyed. He would have
he would have
destroyed the
destroyed
Steelers.
us.
But I mean, it shows me like, hey, you guys got to the red zone. Guess what? We were great. 2 for 2 in the red zone. Get us down there more.
Yeah. You got to get there.
Because that pass Fields did, that was I looked at that and how many times with youth football, that is textbook how you do a shuffle pass.
Yeah.
His right foot, his throwing foot
Perfect.
was pointed first,
Yeah, perfect.
hands out. I mean, it's like holy shit, can you come teach that to kids?
It's
That's beautiful.
it's a difficult play to pull off, and they pulled it off perfectly.
He did it great. And so that's the LeeAnn's point. I don't know if Russell Wilson could do that, but he can't. And Russell Wilson
Feels
doesn't
like
have
lots
that
of
fluid
things
factor.
work well in isolation, but like we put it together and it's just not coming together with the end result we want. And I feel like that points to coaching.
Agreed. Yeah. That's my philosophy too.
You point to coaching and stuff. I'm pointing to Omar Khan. He's done a lot of good things, but this whole wide receiver thing has been an absolute disaster. And
Do you think
now
he gets one before the deadline?
you got to get somebody. You
I don't
have
think they're
to
going to
get
get
somebody.
Davante Adams.
No.
I just don't know if they'll get him. If they do, great. But
although maybe with the bizarre firing, maybe that was bizarre. Maybe he's less keen to go to the Jets when he doesn't know exactly what's going to be going on there.
No, we got to get some Jets fans on a podcast because that's bat crap crazy up there.
Right? The funniest thing I saw today was some insider said, we talked to sources and Aaron Rodgers had nothing to do with Robert Saleh being fired. Are you kidding me? He had everything to do with it.
Yeah, I can't stay because that's what Aaron Rodgers will do. It's not working. I feel like he's really past his prime. And he's going to throw everybody under the bus possible, and there'll be a rash of firings, and he'll be standing there. I'm Aaron Rodgers.
You think Russell Wilson sitting in his house and be like, y'all talked about me?
Yeah, I know.
Like, y'all were talking about me? Can we talk about him?
This guy, yeah.
I know.
This guy. There's a guy.
I teach my son this, but we just had a conversation about the impressions that you make. I'll never forget, LeeAnn. Do you remember back? Was it the College Football Showcase? And the female reporter, I can't remember, very young at the time. So he wins it, and he wins a like a 58-inch color TV. And what's he say? He doesn't humble about it. He says, maybe you'd like to come to my place and watch it with me. And it's like, I mean, you can YouTube that. And to me right then, and I forget, we all make mistakes, whatever.
Yeah.
But he has never shied away from being like a unforgiving, just a jag-off. He is a jag-off. Pittsburghians are jag-off.
Who? Pat McAfee?
No. Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. I just don't understand giving the team to that guy when he's at the end of his career and he probably won't even be there next year. And they say Davante Adams wants to play with either Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers because that's who he's played with before. Why would you want to go to? First of all, why would you want to go to the Jets? They're a joke. Right. Second of all, the guy's 41. What? How long do you think he's going to play? And look at him now. He sucks.
I don't understand the desire to go to the Jets. It makes me question if that's really even true because it doesn't make any sense to me because you got to figure Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles. He's already old. And so how much longer is he going to last? If you're Davante Adams and you go there and say you sign a 3-year deal with the Jets, who's taking over?
Yeah.
You're going to be there. It's the place that wide receivers go to die. So what are you going to do there in 2025 or 2026? You're going to be asking for a trade again. And then you're going to be that guy that bounces all over the league. Now you're a journeyman and whatever else. I think it's a bad move. I think he's much better off going to a team, not even if it's not Pittsburgh, do you know what I mean? But one that is at least on the rise, not one that's hoping to plateau.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, and look at the drama. Like the one thing I could not get from Sunday's games, Joe and LeeAnn, I don't think in all the years I've watched football, helped to coach football, covered football on Friday nights and Saturdays, I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback refuse a call like happened with the Browns and Stefanski on 4th and 1. He wanted him to go for it, and he just walked off the field.
He just decided to not play.
He gets his team a delay a game. I've never in my life seen I mean, what a
I've never seen a situation where you're insisting on playing a person because you paid him a lot of money and he is the sole reason you're losing games, but you insist on playing him. So you would rather lose games and be
And
right
be
and
right.
lose games.
Yeah. And like
Unbelievable.
I'm in on this guy. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to waver on that. It's absurd. And I think that beyond the fact that he's losing them games, I think he's shown to be a poor sport, a poor teammate, a terrible human
person.
being. Like
He
I don't
literally, he
I mean
literally
in
just settled
every
another
way,
case.
in every way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just I don't get that at all. And I if there's anything that makes me feel bad for Browns fans in a way, I mean, like you're stuck with this guy. Yeah, I just
I
I
don't
would
get
feel
just
for
that.
the
So
Browns fans that speak out against him. I really do, that hate it. I know
yeah,
how I felt when we signed Michael Vick. I was so against it and so
Yeah.
anti Michael Vick and just refused to ever cheer for him. I barely watched. So I mean, if we signed somebody who was truly a sexual predator like Watson, it was hard enough going through the stuff we went through with Ben. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I will never pretend that Ben wasn't a jerk and didn't do things wrong and all of those things. I do feel like he worked hard to become a different person. Do you know what I mean? After that season in his life. But with Watson, I mean, this is a lot of people. This is not one lady at Burger King or two people. You're talking now up almost 100 women. I mean, that's insane.
I'm gonna credit this guy as at James_Dater. He posted Deshaun Watson has more settled lawsuits, 23, than touchdown passes since being traded to the Browns.
Bingo. Yeah. I saw somebody tweet today that he wants to come to the Steelers. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
no, no,
Hard pass.
no,
You don't need
no.
any of that.
Somebody said it perfectly. The Browns fans do not deserve this. The Browns team,
No.
the Browns organization does, but not the fans. Those fans
Yeah.
have been through enough and they got to deal with this crap. I feel bad for them.
I do too. I do too. I mean, they've for years, you know what I mean, sat in mediocrity, and then they finally start to have some success and see some success with that team with Baker Mayfield, and then now they've got this clown, and I feel bad for him. I really do. Not Nick Barnes, but the rest of them.
I think most likely the Steelers are not going to end up with Devontae Adams, but like a DeAndre Hopkins, someone like lesser tier person, I'd be fine with literally anyone else is better than Van frickin' Jefferson. Wow. But yeah, let's talk about George Pickens. First of all, the Tomlin had a press conference today, and obviously he was asked about it, and he was asked about the eye thing where he has writing that says all open always or effing always open or always I don't know what
open effing
order.
always
Open effing. I was thinking of doing that, in writing like donut effing bag or something like that.
Yeah.
And first of all, you have an organization with the Steelers that has been around for what, 80, 90 years. That's supposed to be about tradition and a fine, upstanding organization, and one of the shining lights of the NFL and stuff. You have someone putting profanity on your freaking face as an advertisement. How on earth is that allowed?
I don't know. Somebody knew. You can't tell me nobody saw George Pickens before the game from the minute he went and put his eye black on in the locker room until he walked out. Nobody saw him.
And when Tomlin was asked about it, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Come on, dude.
And George Pickens was there when Cameron Hayward got fined for having Ironhead honoring his father on his eye black. So you knew that the always effing open thing was not going to fly. You knew you were going to get
that sense of maturity. I mean, it's like, maybe we trade the wrong receiver away? I know Deontay Johnson, was this and that and said this, but he's not doing awful in Carolina. And maybe we traded the wrong guy away. Maybe we could have gotten more for Pickens. Maybe we could have gotten more. Maybe we should have traded him away. I would have been fine with it.
I've heard insiders say, among the wide receivers that might get traded by the deadline, and then they listed a bunch of, and one of them was George Pickens. I thought, that's really weird. Why on earth would you trade George Pickens? Now I kind of see that it's possible.
I don't think I don't think there's any way it'll happen. I mean,
No.
we're in a wide receiver drought already. We don't have anybody else. There aren't extra wide receivers out there for us to go get. So even if we go get a DeAndre Hopkins or somebody, you still need somebody else, or we're right back in the same situation we're in now.
My grand plan was you trade for DeAndre Devontae Adams like a second, third round draft pick or something like that. And then you trade for Romeo Dobbs because the Packers are going through the same exact thing with Romeo Dobbs. Pickens for Dobbs. Fine. Let's now we have two wide receivers.
It
There you
would be
go.
interesting to see if you did bring in a decent wide receiver, how that may impact Fields' success or Russell Wilson if he was in there, or the Steelers as a whole. But I think I got to be honest. I think it would impact it to a degree because you're right. Van Jefferson stinks. Van Jefferson wouldn't be a fourth wide receiver on half the NFL teams. I mean, it's just not good.
We can keep carrying the torch. I mean, I see everybody talks ad nauseum about Roman Wilson, but he's not there. So I mean, all
No,
the insiders say this kid is not ready to play professional football. So he is still either really injured, and then I don't really understand why he's not on the IR.
well, right, and
He's
He
not
missed
ready. He's
training
not ready.
camp. He's a rookie
yes,
that missed training camp. That
Right. I mean,
basically puts him a year
yes,
behind.
Calvin
yeah.
Austin, the kid. Do you know what I mean? Let him go. Let him
Yeah,
go for the season, and try again next year or something.
exactly.
Yeah, no, yeah, right. And it's kind of like you were saying about Patrick Queen, LeeAnn. I mean, even if he comes back this week, is he going to be that effective? No, he's
Yeah.
going to be a lost soul. I mean, yeah, he might grab a ball or two, but at this point,
Well, would
unless
you
he
really want to
plays
put that pressure on like an injured rookie's shoulders? You know what I mean?
right,
Like come in and save the team. Like, I don't know. The people that keep saying that to me, I'm like, that seems outrageous to me.
Yeah, yeah,
right,
that's a lot to put
yeah,
on someone.
yeah.
Um,
So
and so yeah, so you have this ridiculous eye thing, and as you mentioned, um, Cam Hayward got fined for having a message about his late father, and he got fined for that. Imagine what's going to happen with Pickens. But I think that's an embarrassment to the organization. But what's also an embarrassment is the way he plays, the way he loafs. He takes most plays off, even the plays where the ball was thrown. There was a one ball that was thrown, and it went over his head, and I even said, like, so was that a bad throw or what happened there? And apparently what happened there was he was loafing on the
Yeah.
play and he was jogging. And if he actually ran what he was supposed to, that would have been a catch.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And yeah, this whole, obviously Tomlin is trying to protect him, and you know, he's basically saying, I'm not telling you what's going on. We're going to keep this internal, which I understand. I respect that. That's, any organization is not just going to air their dirty laundry, but uh, we're in this situation because we have nobody else. Otherwise, if we had like two or three good wide receivers, we'd sit his ass down for a couple games.
So
yeah,
let's say, so Mark Caboli said that he believes that the reason Pickens played less snaps against the Cowboys was because during the prior week against the Colts, Pickens was dogging it, meaning people could tell what the play was going to be. So he felt like this was Mike Tomlin's kind of like smack on the hand, like a miniature light benching light, to have him not play as many reps so that he would look the part that he's supposed to look, right? And he said that his teammates were so frustrated with him, they were actually moving away from him physically. When he came and sat down on the bench, they got up and like moved away. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
because
that I
you're
don't
right.
speaks volumes about where this kid is. Do you know what I mean? And what's
Well,
going on with him. So when Tomlin was asked, Tomlin said, no, no, no. This is load management. And he
yeah,
compared him to Cam Hayward, who's 35, and a Landon Roberts, and ignored the fact that he's 23 and our only wide receiver, and talked about this is a new thing the NFL is doing. So my question is, next week, if he goes back to playing his normal number of reps, who's going to ask Tomlin about the load management? Surely Brooke Pryor or somebody will. Like, come on, like what you couldn't have
right,
come with a better story than that.
right, and that's why I would love to have had like a Cortland Sutton or somebody, uh, of mature approach because I think he would have fed off that a little bit. I'm not saying he would have been great,
Me
but
too.
that's what was my reason for saying to you guys back all 5 weeks ago when I said that. Like, I'm not sure he's the number one receiver, not because of talent, because of his mind.
Yeah.
And I think it was the Colts game, Joe, or was it the Broncos game? We talked about this where he went up the sidelines, threw his helmet, bounced it off the ground, and of all people to go was Broderick Jones and went and
Broderick
consoled
Jones.
him.
Yeah.
And that I didn't think about that until she just said that because maybe it's because
It
since
was
they
the
were
Indy game
Georgia
after he
buddies,
fumbled the
right?
ball
Yep.
in the red zone.
Is
Yep.
normally that's like a Cam Hayward, a TJ Watt, maybe kind of a thing to do, and even Muth, and yeah,
Let's talk about Muth. Muth for our Muth, who before the season started got a 4-year, $48 million contract extension. He was asked about targets and stuff, and he said, quote, "I trust the coaching staff and what they're doing. Everyone can bitch and complain about lack of targets, but it's the stuff you do without the ball. That's what leaders do. That's what good teammates do. I block my ass off regardless." That is a direct shot
Oh, it's a
at
direct shot.
Pickens.
Look, Antonio Brown was like the greatest wide receiver in the NFL when he played on the Steelers back in his heyday. And he blocked. I mean, that guy went out and blocked. He didn't try to pretend like he was too good. And when he wasn't blocking, he was darting off like 10 yards trying to pretend like he was getting the ball. Do you know what I mean? So he would misdirect the defense. I mean, he was out there playing just as hard when he was getting the ball as when he wasn't.
He was a psycho off the field. On the field, he played
Absolutely.
his ass off
That's
every
why he
single
got away
play.
with it. That's why
Yeah.
he was allowed to be a psycho. That's why on Tomlin Tuesday, when he and Ben and whoever else did their press conferences, they're like, "Oh, we're best friends. Everything is good between us." Copacetic, because he was performing. If you're not performing, you can't act like a kook.
right,
Yeah. He never did this
yeah,
dogging thing. He never jogged, all this stuff.
No,
I've
100%
heard
effort.
I've heard that Pickens has been doing this his entire time with the Steelers, that basically if the play's not going to him, he doesn't give a crap. I mean, hell, we saw it last year. Deontay Johnson just stood there for one play. I don't know if he learned it from Deontay or what the heck, but
yeah. I
it's
mean, that
unacceptable.
was talk about a horrible mentor. And here's the thing, guys. This was the knock on him coming in here. I mean, he had that attitude in Georgia. He was known to be a crybaby, and the Steelers went in on it. And I mean, it's all falling apart.
I really hope that this is because he's very young. I mean, he is only 23, like his brain is not even fully developed. So I really hope that some of this is that he's very young and Tomlin feels or sees something in him that he feels that he can influence, because otherwise we lost a draft pick for Kenny Pickett, a draft pick for George Pickens. You know what I mean? These are high draft picks you're just
Yeah.
throwing away on guys with garbage attitudes.
Yep.
Is it a wide receiver thing? Because it happens throughout. The Packers are dealing with Romeo Dobbs. The Raiders are
Yeah.
dealing with Devontae Adams. The Bills had to trade Stephon Diggs because he was pulling that crap. So it's not just a Steeler thing, but it sure seems like it happens a lot more with the Steelers. And we praise Mike Tomlin for how he handles players, and players say, "Oh, I want to play for Mike Tomlin." And I think one reason is because he lets people be themselves. But when you have immature idiots, you let them be themselves. This is what you get. You get people acting like this and thinking that it's okay to act like this. Somebody should kick that kid's butt in that locker room.
Yeah, you'd think
Great.
so.
Agreed.
Yep. Attitude adjustment.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Smack
boys
'em.
and girls.
I imagine somebody will. I don't think the veterans are gonna continue to tolerate this. Do you know what I mean? That those antics with the helmet stuff at the end of the game was at the end of the game. But if it had been, that could have been something very game changing had it happened at a less opportune time. You know what I mean? It could have not only cost him money, possibly gotten him suspended. It also could have,
Here's the
cost us,
thing.
an opportunity to score, taking us out of field goal range, whatever.
We don't know what's been happening behind the scenes, but I
Yeah.
guarantee he's been, probably dogging it in practice, probably dogging it, probably being a horrible person for a long time. But now it's bubbled up to the surface. Now we all know about it. Now, everybody's doing their own little film studies on look at him loafing and look at him doing this. Now the microscope is on. So I think now we saw last year when Deontay was pulling his crap, that he apologized and he quote unquote got better. Pickens was pulling his crap last year, also same thing. He quote unquote got better. I think he's going to hopefully learn from this. But we one of the big questions this going into this year was, is Pickens a wide receiver one? Is he someone that we want to keep long term? And the answer is hell no.
Well, and I think he's a guy too. Like, I think he just gets caught up in his own stats too. And like I said, no touchdowns at all in 5 games. I have a feeling, 80% sure that if you'd have 3 touchdowns at this point and was one of the top wide receivers in the game, I think his attitude would change a little bit. But I think as we get worse or he goes without, getting the stats he needs or he feels he should have, like it takes a real, to put that on eye black and put it on your face. It's one thing, like you said, hey, Iron Head, John 3:16, whatever. It takes somebody that has, a lot of audacity and no humility at all to put that on their face and sit there and just, come out and say it. And first of all, pal, you're not always open. You don't create separation.
Even when it's thrown to you, you catch it.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So, it's like I want to wear eye black. This game says wrong. I mean, it's and that's the other thing. Like maybe if we had a better quarterback and we were doing some winning and getting some good scores, he might be happier.
Through 5 games, he has 36 targets. That's over 7 targets a game. It's not like they're not throwing him the ball. It's not like they're not giving him chances.
I say this though, Darren, that the only thing I disagree, I agree with everything you're saying, except that I got to say that if he doesn't behave like this because we're playing better or because we're winning, that doesn't mean that this isn't his behavior. Do you know what I mean? Like that just means that it's not bubbling to the surface. And I think, that's part of what concerns me. Mark Caboli made a comment about like the way to fix this is to get him the ball more. And that's like your kids throwing a temper tantrum
and letting them win.
You give them candy so they stop crying. Do you know what I mean? So if that's the formula to win, then I'm all for it. If throwing George Pickens the ball more means we win, throw his D-Bass the ball a whole bunch and let's win a game. I don't care. But if we're going to throw him the ball a whole bunch just to placate him and then still deal with his temper tantrums, that's not acceptable.
No, I agree with that. I'm just merely stating that I think if he would be having a little bit more success statistically, I think his attitude wouldn't be as bad. But, the funny thing about that is there's always a rumor, and I think it was even more than a rumor, like AB wanted his 5 or 6 catches a game.
I was just going to say that. His 5 catches, 50-yard streak, which was...
and if he didn't get that, then he got a little bit, but the LeeAnn got this earlier, correct? The thing was, when you got him his 5, you got everything from him. If you get this kid 5, I'm not sure you're going to get that 100%.
Ben knew that. And you know what he did? He threw AB the easiest balls ever.
Yeah.
Run 3 yards, turn around, curl route, ball. There you go. I don't care if you got 3 yards. He's happy he got his catches. He's happy he got his targets. Do some screens. Do some things to get him involved. Even Freiermuth, I don't know what Freiermuth's targets is, but he's not being thrown to enough. It's ridiculous that Najee is like your leading receiver. Like that is a failure. Design some things to get these guys the ball, even if it's just cheap yards.
Yeah, and that's the problem, guys. That's why we're not up 14-3 at the end of the first quarter, or 14-10, or 17-10 in the first half, because our playmakers are not coming through.
Even looking at that all 22, Calvin Austin was open a lot more than it appeared. Do you know what I mean? So get somebody the ball. Do you know what I mean? I agree with you. I think that success breeds success. And so if we can start moving the ball around the field, opening that offense up a little bit, I think that it would improve Pickens' demeanor overall. And frankly, we need him. So we need to figure something out because we don't have anybody else.
They basically have a home game this weekend. I told you.
Yeah, really.
It was so much fun last year when David Carr went down. And I turned around and say, hey, who's the Raiders, backup quarterback? I couldn't find a Raider fan to ask. I mean, it was like, Oh, hey, I'm from Blawnox, and yeah, I'm from Pine Richland, and we're from Carson City, but we were originally from Monroeville. I mean, like, yeah,
Yeah, that's
I,
it'll
awesome.
be heavy Steeler
Good.
I was gonna
nation.
make the joke that Kyle Allen would make all those throws to those open receivers, but it's not going to be a joke because I think at some point in the season we're going to see Kyle Allen play. Unfortunately, that's just
Yeah,
the way the
I,
football,
I,
the NFL goes.
100%.
All right, guys, thanks so much.
thank
Uh,
Thanks,
you.
guys. LeeAnn, stay
Good
safe.
talking
All
to you.
right, and
Yeah,
stay
thanks.
safe, Allison. We are praying for you.
Allison,
We're
Yeah,
praying for
thinking about
everyone in
everybody in
Florida.
Tampa
yeah,
in the
all my
path of the
family and friends
hurricane.
will love you guys, and
Yep.
I hope it does not do as much damage as it sounds like. Just yeah, we're praying for everybody in Florida. Just wow, just
yeah,
hope everything's okay.
right.
100%. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Take care.
See ya.